Hello everyone, today I want to show you how to create animated blood cells flowing through a vein in geometry nodes. You can set the flow speed, the rotation speed and the radius of the vein modularly. The vein itself consists of a path, and if you change that path, the rest will adjust automatically. So if you want to know how to create that, just watch this video. So before we'll jump into geometry nodes, we will first have to model our blood cell, and we will do that with a cylinder. Let's move it next to our pre-modeled blood cell, and we scale it down until we have a similar shape like the right one. And now apply all transforms, origin to the middle of our object, and now we can select the upper edges and the lower edges. Therefore you hit Alt and Shift, and then you can select these two edges, and now we can bevel these two edges until you have something like that. Yes, maybe like this. Now we have to select the upper face and the lower face, and we are going to make some subdivision circles. And as soon as we get this, make sure that you have selected the face select option, and you have activated the proportional editing, and now we can scale this a little bit down, maybe something like that. And we are going to do the same with the lower face, and we bring that a little bit up, maybe something like that. That looks pretty similar to the other one. Now set shade smooth, and now we are going to add some imperfections, and therefore activate the point selection, and the proportional editing we will keep that selected. And now you can select single vertices and move them just randomly like you wish. Maybe like that, and someone from the side like this, and the bottom there and there. So I think that's enough. You can add as many imperfections as you like, and now go to the modifiers, and we are going to add some simple deform. And we can leave it at twist, maybe a little bit less twisting, until you got something like this. And that's our blood cell. You can apply that, and now we can apply the material. Maybe we jump into rendered mode, and we going to add a light so that we can see something. That's our blood cell, and now we are going to apply our blood, and I've already prepared the material, and let's have a look at it. I created a texture coordinate node set to UV with a mapping node that goes into a noise texture with these settings. Of course, you have to change these settings if your blood cell has another size. So let's have a quick look at my size. It's something around that. So if your blood cell has other dimensions, you have to change these noise texture scales parameters, and that noise texture goes into another noise texture. So we have some random shape, some random random structure on it, and the noise texture goes into a normal map, that goes into bump, and all together goes into the normal input. And as color, I've chosen maybe that's easier, 800D00, and I've also created some subdivisions, so we have later on some we can look through that middle part because that's a little bit thinner than the rest. And also be aware of that if your platzer later on is thicker, you have to increase your subsurface parameter value so that it shines through when it's thicker. So now that's our platzer. The next thing we are going to do is to create our vein. So let's delete my second platzer. I only need one. And we will create that path for our vein with a curve and a path. There it is. I scale it a little bit up and go into edit mode to change some of the vertices so that looks a little bit more natural, maybe something like that. Of course, you can change that later on. And now we will need some kind of container, maybe a plane or a cube, whatever you like to. And I switch into viewport shading, makes it a little bit easier. Activate the cube, click on geometry nodes, and we are going to create a new geometry nodes setup. Disconnect input from output, and the first thing we're going to do is to drag and drop our NURBS path into our scene. And maybe we will rename it into vein. Now back to our cube. I rename that geometry nodes object. And now the first thing I'm going to do is to create a curve to points node. Where is it? Curve to points node. That will give us some points on our curve where we can later on distribute our plot cells and connect the geometry nodes output with the curve input. And we will need a set position node. Connect points with geometry and that one with our output. And you already can see there were some points on our curve. And what we're also going to create is a sample curve node. With the sample curve node, we can define later on the movement and the rotation of our plot cells. So let's connect the geometry with our output with our curve input, and that one will go into from position into the position input. Now we have all the points you have seen here are all now in that one point, but they are still all there. And now to bring them all back to different points, we are going to create, maybe let's make a frame around this first of all. So hit Ctrl J to make a frame and hit F2 to rename it, and we name that plot cells moving along path. Now to bring back all our points, we are going to add, we need a math node, which we set to add. We will need a random value node, and we connect the random value with our math node, and that one we will plug into our factor. And as you can see, we got some of our points back. You can change the random distribution of our points with the minimum and the maximum value. And as you can see here, with the add value, you can change the points from one point to another point. But of course, we want them to start at, yes, we want them to start at the start point, and for that we have to change it from original to relative. So that makes it start from the very start point to the very end point. Something like that. And you can change the numbers of your points with that value here. But they are now starting at one point and ending at one point, and of course we want to have some kind of loop and repetition in it. And to create that, we are going to insert another math node, plug that right into here, and we change that from add to fraction. And to generate an ongoing movement, we will add a value node, and we plug that right into that one, because that is our movement of our veins, of our blood cells. And now click on the parameter here on the value and type in that one. I don't know the English name for it, and type in frame. That will give us that will change the value of that node with every ongoing frame. So if we are on frame 1, it will be frame it will be number 1, and if we now, like I am, on frame number 165, the value is 165. And as you can see now, you can see nothing. And the reason for that is that for some reason I changed factor to length, and length is wrong. We need to change it to factor. Now you can see that the cells or the points are moving. Actually, if we press now space and animate it, you can see nothing, because for some reason it's so fast, the movement, that it's not shown here. And if you add another math node and set it to divide, and set this one to maybe divide by 50, you can see the value here is divided by 50, and now you can so it's much slower, and now you can see the cells moving from start point to end point, and with thanks to the fraction node they are starting all over again when they move to the end. And now we have already some cool movement of our blood cells, and now it's time to distribute them randomly across our vein. But first of all, I think we are going to frame these nodes, Ctrl J and F2, and we will name that animate the blood cells. And I think before we distribute them randomly, I think we are going to create our blood cells, so that we have a better feeling for what we are doing instead of using these ugly points here. And to bring our blood cells into the scene, you go to the model we have created at the beginning. That's the blood cell, or you can also choose the whole collection. The collection I've prepared is the blood cell itself and some small icosphere. So that's some kind of, I know, some particles that are also in the blood. I thought it would look more realistic. Of course, you can leave these objects or add some other objects. So I will go with the whole collection, drag and drop it into our scene. And now we will need instance on points node. And I will stop the animation by hitting Shift, and we place the instance on points node between our group input, group output, and our set position node. And now activate pick instance and separate children and reset children. And now we can connect the geometry with our instance, and as you can see, we have some blood cells here. I think we can increase the number of our blood cells, maybe something like that. And of course, we want them to give it some random rotation. And to do that, we will need a random value node, which we set to vector. And now we connect the value with the rotation and change the parameter to something that you like. Beware of that value here is only the how to call it, the start rotation of our cells. It's not the value that animates the cell later on. Now we can frame that too. Control J, F2, and we will name that distribute blood cells. So now it's time to spread them along that path, so they don't move all at the same path. So it looks like more like they are distributed in that whole cylinder that will be later on our curve, our vein. And to distribute them or to spread them in our vein, we will add some nodes between our set position node and our sample curve node. And we will add a vector math node. We will need a random value node. We will need another vector math node. We can just copy and paste that one. And we need another value node. So now let's connect. First of all, we disconnect that one and we connect the position node with the vector math node, and that one will go now into the position node. And to spread them now, we have to change all these values, of course randomly, not all to one direction, as you can see it here. So let's rename that to 0 again, or that back. By the way, you can change all these 3 values at once if you click all of them, and now you can type in only one number and they are all changed once. And now we are going to connect that value with our add node. We set this one to -1. No. And connect it with the, well, first of all, that one goes to vector, and we connect that one with our minimum value. So our start value is 1, and now our minimum value is -1, and that one goes into the maximum value. And now if we change that one value here, the output will be -3.8 and +3.8. So we have always exactly the mirror value of the minimum and the maximum. And now we can connect that one with the vector here. And as you can see, they are now distributed along that path. And of course, we have to change the vector math from add to multiply, and now it works properly. They are distributed with the along that curve, and the curve will be always in the middle of it, or something like that. And as we now animate it, It already looks like blood cells flowing along our vein. Maybe we can make it a little bit slower, and we make it slower by increasing that value here. Maybe we can I will make our curve a little bit longer, something like that. Yes, looks cool. Back to our geometry nodes, and now I will frame that again. I will hit Ctrl J and F2, and we'll name that random position of blood cells. The next thing we want to do is to make the rotation also be animated, and to do that we will go right after our distribution of our blood cells, and we will insert a rotate instances node, just like that, and we will need a combine XYZ node. We will need a math node, and we will need another value node, and again we will animate that value node with the hashtag node. That's the name of it, I remember now. Hashtag and frame. Let's stop the animation, and now connect that one with the add node. With that value here we will control the speed of our rotation. We'll start with 50 and connect that with every channel of our combined XYZ node, and that will go into our rotation channel. And when we now start animation, they all should rotate. Yes, that's of course too fast. Let's increase that value. Maybe we go with 500. That's still too fast. Maybe 1000. Of course, we have to set it to divide, not to add. It only makes it faster. So again, let's start with 50. And I think that's too slow. Let's make 10. And now you can see they have some animation, some rotation in it. And I think 20 is a good rotation value for that. And now we have some blood cells flowing through our vein. And again hit X. So now I like the path a little bit more than that straight line here at the end. And now it's time to create our vein. Let's go back to our geometry nodes object, and let's make a frame around that. Hit Ctrl J, F2, and we're going to name that random rotation. No, random rotation animation. So now it's time to create our vein, and to do that we will need a curve to mesh node. Curve to mesh node, and we need some kind of profile for it, and the profile for our curve to mesh node will be a curve circle node. And we connect the geometry with our curve, and the curve circle curve with our profile, and that one will go in our joint geometry node that we created just right now. and connect that one with that one. And as you can see, there's our vein. Maybe I switch to rendered mode so that we can see something, and we add a light. And the point light has to be inside our vein, of course. There we have a point light. Let's go to our camera. And we will move with our camera right into our vein. Where's my camera? I deactivate depth of field for the moment. And I change my rotation of my camera to 0, 0, 0. That makes it a little bit easier at the moment. Where is my light? There it is. Now that's the inside of our vein. And of course we have to make it a little bit bigger, because now some cells are at the outside. And where's our geometry nodes object to change the size of our vein? We only have to increase the radius, maybe something like that. And maybe we can now increase the count of our blood cells. And now you can already see that we have some pretty cool blood cell animation. Maybe we can make the animation a little bit slower. That looks pretty realistic, I think. And now the only thing that is missing right now is the material for our vein. And of course I have already prepared some material. We will need a set material node. And I've named that vein. And I think we have to create another point light and make that one a little bit brighter. Oh, that looks already good. So you can see now that's our vein. I've created some kind of flesh blood material. Let's have a quick look at that. With our vein. So the material, if you want to copy it, here's the overview. I created a texture coordinate node set to object with a mapping node that goes into a noise texture with these values. The noise texture goes into a color ramp node, and I will give you the parameters of my, or the values of my colors. That one is hex FF9473. That one is 840500, and the dark one is 331115. And that goes into a UV saturation node, or you can skip that if you like to. And the noise texture goes also into a color ramp node that goes into the clear roughness channel. That's nothing specific. I just tried something out that I like best at the end. Of course, you can create your own flesh material. The noise texture also goes into the bump. The bump goes into normal and the clear coat normal. Clear coat is something like something shiny above the surface. So like it's also used when you make the surface of a car. That's clear coat. And of course it goes into the displacement node, and the displacement node goes into the displacement input of our material output. So if you want to copy these settings, here it is. Now back to our geometry nodes. Geometry nodes object. Let's make a frame around that. Hit F2, and that's our vein. And the only thing you have to do now is to connect all these parameters you like to change with the input. For example, if you want to change the speed of your animation, just connect that one with the group input, and immediately you got something to change in your modifier panel. You can rename these values here when you go into the group panel, and here you can change it from a value to speed, and now it's renamed to speed. And that's all. The only thing you have to do now is to edit your vein to something you like. Where is it? There it is. You can make it longer, you can make it curvier, you can add some lights to it, because at the moment it's pretty dark. And that's all. You have some blood animation inside your vein. Hope you learned something, and hope I see you next time. Bye.